Announcements by Mr. Speaker.
Honourable members, I have to report to the House as follows. Prior to and during the proceedings of the Assembly at the sitting of 18 July 2024, certain members, all belonging to the Labour Party, the MMM, and the Nouveau Démocrate, continually hindered the proceedings by screaming and making loud and noisy interruptions. Scandalous slogans and insults were proffered in an attempt to impugn the very legitimacy of the election of the Speaker and to hamper its due process. This behavior was intended to undermine the integrity of the constitutional office of the Speaker and the dignity of the National Assembly as a whole. At the same time, these members caused irredeemable damage to the image of the nation in the eyes of the world. Honourable members, the election of the Speaker was conducted by the clerk in accordance with sections 32.4 and 32.6 of the Constitution and the provisions of Standing Orders 7, 1 and 2. Let me remind honourable members that it is not the first time that the office of Speaker has become vacant before the dissolution of the Assembly. It is a fact that this very procedure was the one adopted in electing to the office of Speaker first Mr. Iswa Deo Sitaram on 4 December 1990, following a motion by then Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Sir Anirudh Jagnnath. Second, Sir Ramesh Jiulal on 23 January 1996, following a motion by Prime Minister Dr. the Honourable Navin Chandra Ramgoolam. Thirdly, Mr. Abdul Razak Mohamed Amin Pirou on 24 July 2012, following a motion again by Prime Minister Dr. the Honourable Navin Chandra Ramgoolam. Members of Parliament know that the appropriate forum to challenge the legality of the election of the Speaker is neither for the House nor in the press, but the Supreme Court of Mauritius. I must also report to the House that members of Parliament have disobeyed the order for suspension from the service of the Assembly imposed upon them, which is yet another unprecedented occurrence in our Parliament. This House will certainly recall that on 5 July 2024, Honourable Rajesh Bhagwan was suspended for the day sitting and the ensuing 5 sittings. On 9 July 2024, Honourable Eshan Juman was suspended for the day sitting and the ensuing 6 sittings. And on July 12, 2024, Honourable Joanna Béranger was suspended for the day sitting and the ensuing 3 sittings. Despite their suspensions, at the sitting of 18 July 2024, Honourable Joanna Béranger, Honourable Rajesh Bhagwan, and Honourable Eshan Juman have forcefully made their way to the door of the chamber in breach of the standing orders, whilst they were not allowed to have access to any part of the precincts of the House, which includes all parts of the building on a sitting day. According to report submitted by the Sergeant at Arms, when refused access, the 3 suspended honourable members stated that they had received a convocation to attend the sitting by email from the office of the clerk. After verification, it has been confirmed that no such convocation had been addressed to them. This gross disorderly conduct was aggravated by the fact that the honourable members not only obstructed proceedings of the Assembly, but also found it apt to insult the newly elected Speaker in a language that has no place in Hansard. This occurred whilst I was making my way to my office from the chamber after I had suspended the sitting by reason of the great disorder that had paralyzed the proceedings of the Assembly. I leave this important matter to the appreciation of the House. As my third announcement, I shall now address the issue of the waiving of suspension of Honourable Joanna Béranger, Honourable Rajesh Bhagwan, and Honourable Eshan Juman from the service of the Assembly. One can only regret that the Honourable Leader of Opposition has limited his endeavour to have the said suspensions waived to mere statements made in the press, rather than by following established procedures which are clearly laid down in our standing orders. Let me remind the House that the Speaker cannot, on his own volition, reverse or otherwise deal with the resolutions of the Assembly which suspended the said honourable members from the service of the Assembly. The said suspensions may only be dealt with by resolution of the Assembly following the appropriate motion being made in accordance with our standing orders. The onus is now on the honourable members who stand suspended from the service of the Assembly to tender unreserved apologies to the House or for an appropriate motion to be made in the House by their colleagues. I deplore the approach taken by the Honourable Leader of the Opposition, who has chosen to throw ultimatums on the House in the press. That is, that the opposition shall abdicate from its role in the Assembly at today's sitting unless and until the suspension of honourable members is lifted, whilst being oblivious to due process established by standing orders and practice. For Parliament to properly function, the participation of members of the opposition in the business of the Assembly is essential. I will also leave that to the appreciation of the House. For my fourth announcement, concerning questions falling under the purview of the local authorities. Honourable members, I have taken cognizance of the announcement made by my predecessor on Tuesday, 2nd July 2024, regarding questions falling under the purview of local authorities. I must emphasize that the former Speaker had, at no point in time, expressed the view that all questions regarding local authorities would de facto be disallowed. However, being given the fact that the said ruling gave rise to confusion as to distinguish which questions fall within the category of national interest and which fall under operational activities for which municipalities and district council are endowed with sufficient autonomy to manage their own local affairs. Nonetheless, I rule that henceforth all questions pertaining to local authorities would be allowed in line with past practice of the House. For my fifth announcement, concerning the access to the precincts of the Assembly by suspended members on non-sitting days. Honourable members, my last announcement relates to the precinct of the Assembly, to the access to the precinct of the Assembly by members who are under suspension. I have been informed that access was denied to those members on days during which the Assembly was not sitting, except, of course, when any of those members were serving on any committee of the Assembly. In that regard, my reading of the provision of Standing Orders 49.5 and 49.6 of the Standing Orders and Rules of the Assembly is clear that members who have been suspended from the service of the Assembly are precluded from the precincts of the House only on sitting days. I therefore rule that henceforth suspended members shall be allowed to have access to the precincts of the Assembly on any day other than a sitting day. Moreover, I wish to apprise the House that it has been brought to my attention that some controversy has arisen concerning the modalities for the drawing of lots for determining the order of parliamentary questions. I wish to inform the House that I will personally look into this matter to ensure that fairness and equity prevail at all times. I thank you for your attention.
Papers have been laid. Question, private notice question, none. Questions addressed to the Honourable Prime Minister.
Honourable members, the table has been advised that P594 has been withdrawn. In the absence of Honourable Fukyun Basha, I now call Mr. Honourable Salim Abbas Mawat.
B596.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm informed by the Commission of Police that for the period 2005 to 2014, 17 government vehicles from the VIP security unit carpool were put at the disposal of Dr. N.R. GCSK FRCP, former Prime Minister, for his official and personal use as well as for use by third parties. In fact, 6 vehicles were put at the disposal of the former Prime Minister for official and personal use, namely 1, a black BMW 760i, bearing registration number 442 FB04, 2, a black BMW 760Li, bearing registration number 1607 MR10, 3, a black BMW MS600, bearing registration number 2093 AP11, 4, a black BMW 760Li, bearing registration number 8709 DC13, 5, a black Land Rover, bearing registration number 8190 DC13, and 6, a black Land Rover bearing registration number 3379 JU10. Mr. Speaker, sir, with regard to Part B of the question, I'm informed that 2 vehicles were used by Mrs. VR, spouse of Dr. NR, namely a black Jeep 5.7 Henry, bearing registration number 4007JL08, and a black Mercedes E350 bearing registration number 1543 MR11. 2 black BMW 523i were used by late Mr. VCJ, brother-in-law of Dr. NR, and the in-laws of Dr. NR, respectively. Excuse me. Mr. Speaker, sir, moreover, 1 vehicle, namely a BMW 735Li, Oxford green in colour, was put up for use by foreign eminent personalities, namely Mrs. Stéphanie MG, Princess of Monaco, and Marie Ségolène R, each time they visited Mauritius. 2 other vehicles as follows were used by VIPs lodged at Belmar Plage Hotel. 1, a beige Mercedes E280, 2, a black Mercedes E230. Furthermore, one vehicle, namely a BMW 523i, garnet in color and bearing registration number 5517 SP08, was put at the disposal of Mr. Gilles Joseph F. Mr. Speaker, sir, the above vehicle, that is the BMW 523i, was also put at the disposal of Ms. Stéphanie S.A.F. and Mr. Laurent O. In addition to a black BMW 552D used by Ms. Stéphanie S.A.F. and a black BMW 540i used by Mr. Laurent O. Finally, one vehicle, namely a beige BMW, was used by Mr. Charles Jeffrey C. Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm informed by the Commissioner of Police that all these vehicles were driven by police officers posted at the VIP security unit.
Yes, Honorable Abbas Mahmoud.
Thank you, Speaker, sir. Can the acting Prime Minister state whether one Nandini S., very close to the former Prime Minister, was also provided with a vehicle from the VIP security unit carpool driven by a VIPSU officer?
Mr. Speaker, I have not been provided with such information. However, I stand informed that there was a previous parliamentary question in this House in the course of the sitting of 1st September 2015, which was answered by late Sir Anil Jagnat, then Prime Minister, and the very same question was put as a supplementary, to which the then Prime Minister answered, I understand that this is so. Unfortunately, I have not been provided with such information. In fact, I was surprised to learn that there was an inquiry carried out at some point in time before 2019, and that relevant information pertaining to the list of persons who had been allocated vehicles from the police carpool, together with the services of VIPSU drivers over the period July 2005 to 11 December 2014, were not fully available. And there was suspicion that that was intentional. Unfortunately, the missing information could not be retrieved.
Yes, Honorable Abbas Mahmoud.
Thank you, Speaker. Can the acting Prime Minister state in what capacity Mr. Laurent O was provided with official cars driven by VIPSU officers?
Mr. Speaker, if the honourable gentleman will bear with me, I shall try to check whether such information has been provided to me. No, I believe that Mr. Laurent O would have been during that period, at least for some time during that period from July 2005 up to 2014, attached to the embassy of Mauritius in Paris, France, as an advisor, but I do not have more information at hand, unfortunately.
Next question, Honourable Tu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. B597.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm informed by the Commissioner of Police that on Wednesday, 1st May 2024, at 13:50 hours, one Mr. S.H. Subham H., cameraman at the Mauritius Broadcasting Corporation, MBC, called at Central CID, Central Criminal Investigation Department, and reported a case of misbehaving at a public gathering. In his statement, Mr. S.H. averred that on Wednesday, 1st of March 2024 at 6:30 hours, he reported for duty at the Mauritius Broadcasting Corporation in Mocha, and there he took cognizance that together with 7 of his colleagues from the MBC, he was assigned to cover the political gathering of the PTR-MMM-ND political alliance, which was held in front of the City Council Hall of Port Louis. The team reached Port Louis at 900 hours, where the MBC staff was posted at different locations, and Mr. S.H. was positioned near the podium to record a video with the MBC camera. I'm further informed that at a particular point in time, Honourable Patrick A. was standing on the podium and using the microphone, ordering in a loud tone the MBC team to move away, to leave, while pointing his finger at Mr. S.H. Mr. S.H. added that he felt fear and decided to leave the spot. However, while making his way through the crowd that had gathered, he was subjected to verbal abuse. He was thereafter surrounded by a group of hostile persons, and one of them ordered him in a threatening tone to reveal his identity and forced him to delete the video footage he had recorded. At the same time, he was prevented from leaving the place and held from behind. I'm informed that police officers who were nearby intervened and accompanied Mr. S.H. and his colleagues to the MBC vehicle parked at La Poudrière Street. I am further informed, Mr. Speaker, sir, by the Commissioner of Police that in the course of the inquiry, the police recorded statements from 22 persons. On Monday, 6th of May 2024, the police convened one Mr. Ham Sharma K for inquiry purposes. In his statement given in the presence of his barrister, he admitted having caught hold of the jacket of Mr. Subham H with a view to handing over the latter to the police as he appeared to be suspicious. On the same day, Mr. HSK, Ham Sharma K, was arrested and provisionally charged with the offence of misbehaving at public gathering before the District Magistrate of Port Louis Court. Police did not object to his release on bail, and he was bailed out, having furnished a surety of 1,000 rupees and recognizance of 5,000 rupees. His next court appearance stands fixed to Wednesday, 14th August 2024. Additionally, on Thursday, 9th May 2024, one Mr. Kevin G was also convened for inquiry. He gave his statement in the presence of his barrister and denied the allegations levelled against him by the declarant. He stated that he is the Assistant Communication Manager of the Labour Party and was responsible for issuing access passes to the media to enable them to cover the political gathering held by the PTR-MMM-ND alliance on May Day 2024. On the same day, Mr. Kevin G. was arrested and provisionally charged with the offence of misbehaving at a public gathering before the District Magistrate of Port Louis Court. The police did not object to his release on bail, and he was bailed out after having furnished a surety of 1,000 rupees and recognizance of 5,000 rupees. His next court appearance has been fixed to Wednesday, 14th August 2024. Mr. Speaker, I'm also informed by the Commissioner of Police that the Honourable Patrick A. was convened at the CID for purposes of inquiry on Monday, 20th May 2024. He was assisted by his legal advisors. During his interview, he claimed he availed himself of his right to silence to all questions put to him, and when confronted with the video footage, he opted not to view the footage. The inquiry into the case has been completed on 18th July 2024, and I stand informed that the case will be forwarded to the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions for advice shortly.
Honourable Tour.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Can the acting Prime Minister provide information on the number of police officers deployed on the 1st of May 2024 for that political gathering?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, if once again the lady will bear with me, I shall try and I have the number of MBC personnel, but unfortunately I do not have the number of police officers present at the gathering. I have the number of officers having volunteered a statement to the CID, but unfortunately I do not have the information requested by the Honourable Lady.
Any additional supplementary, Mr. Tour? Honourable Abbas Mahmoud.
99.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I would wish to refer the Honourable Member to the replies given to parliamentary questions B/806, B/808, and B/816, provided by the Honourable Prime Minister at the sitting of 27th June 2023 relating to the same subject matter. As the Honourable Prime Minister then informed the House, Mr. A.B., Mr. Akil B., and Mrs. Dumila D.M. were both arrested on 19th August 2022 and provisionally charged with the offence of drug dealing following suspected dangerous drugs, following seizure of suspected dangerous drugs at the residence of Ms. Dumila D.M. as follows. 1, 19.7 grams in one parcel secured from a bedroom. 2.15 grams in another parcel secured from a wooden drawer. 3, 28.12 grams found in two parcels secured from a shoulder bag. 4, particles of leaf matter found in a pair of jeans trousers. 5, residues of leaf matter found in a toilet. And 6, 3.09 grams from 6 parcels found in a manhole. Mr. Akil B. and Mrs. Dumila D.M. were bailed out on 6th and 7th September 2022, respectively. On 12th and 19th September 2022, Ms. DDM and Mr. AB respectively reported a complaint to the police alleging that the contents of the mobile phone of Ms. DDM, secured as exhibit in the case, was shared on a social media platform. On 20th September 2022, police referred the complaints to the Independent Police Complaints Commission for investigation. Mr. Speaker, sir, I stand informed that on 6th December 2022, a motion to strike out the provisional charge for drug dealing was made by the panel of counsel of both Mr. AB and Ms. DDM. The police objected to the motion, but on 28th March 2023, the provisional charge was struck out following a ruling delivered by the district magistrate of Bamboo District Court. Subsequently, upon completion of the inquiry, the files relating to both Mr. AB and Ms. DDM regarding the case of drug dealing was referred to the Director of Public Prosecutions, to the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, with recommendations for prosecution, and that was on 10th April 2023. However, on 24th May 2023, the case filed was returned to the police with certain queries. Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm informed by the Commissioner of Police that the queries were attended to by the police. On 7th August 2023, the case file was resubmitted to the Director of Public Prosecutions. However, on 8th August 2023, the case file was referred back to the police with additional queries. I'm informed that after addressing these queries, the case file was on 8th September 2023, again forwarded to the Director of Public Prosecutions. However, on 14th September 2023, the Director of Public Prosecutions returned the case file to the police with instructions to review the safe city footage and provide a report thereon. That footage was viewed and a report thereon was enclosed in the case file, which was sent anew on 21st September 2023 to the DPP. Mr. Speaker, sir, on 21st May 2024, the Director of Public Prosecutions returned the case file to the police with instructions to follow up with the Independent Police Complaints Commission on the status of complaints made by Mr. AB and Ms. DDM against the police officers. The Director of Public Prosecutions also highlighted that the outcome of those complaints was relevant to the alleged case involving drug dealing. Subsequently, the Independent Police Complaints Commission was, on 22nd May 2024, contacted by the police, and the police was informed that the investigation was still in progress. Mr. Speaker, sir, on 4th July 2024, the police again contacted the Independent Police Complaints Commission to ascertain the status of the investigation into the said complaints. And the Independent Police Complaints Commission thereupon informed the police that the investigation had been completed and the reports had already been forwarded to the Director of Public Prosecutions on 11th June 2024. In view thereof, on 5th July 2024, the police submitted the case file of Mr. AB and Ms. DDM anew to the Director of Public Prosecutions, along with the reply obtained from the Independent Police Complaints Commission. Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm informed by the Commissioner of Police that in view of the seriousness of the offence implicating the accused parties, the police has, on 11th July 2024, approached the Director of Public Prosecutions for an early advice. In response, on 15th July 2024, the Director of Public Prosecutions informed the police that the case was still under consideration.
Yes, Honorable Abbas Mahmoud.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Can the acting Prime Minister state whether there is any objection to departure with regard to Mr. AB and Ms. DDM?
Again, Mr. Speaker, I do not hold such information. I do know, as I stated earlier, that the provisional charges have been struck out. So I would presume that there is no objection to departure, but I have no further information in that regard.
Yes, Honourable Abbas Mahmoud. Time is over. Honourable members, the table has been advised that PQB 611 and B 617 will be replied by Honourable Minister of Commerce and Consumer Protection. PQB 600, B 605, and B 608, B 610, B 611, and B 614, B 617, and B 618 have been withdrawn. With Honourable Fukun being absent, Mr. Leopold.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. B 602.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I am informed by the Computer Emergency Response Team of Mauritius CERT MU department operating under my ministry that there is no case of cyber mercenaries that has been reported so far to either the CERT MU directly or on the Mauritian Cybercrime Online Reporting System, MOCOS platform, which is a national online system that allows the public to report cybercrimes occurring on social media securely.
Yes, Honourable Leopold.
Thank you. Can the Honourable Minister inform the House on how many cases of cyberbullying has been reported through his ministry?
Mr. Speaker, sir, the question is very specific on cyber mercenaries. However, if you bear with me for a moment, I can just check if I have the information. Mr. Speaker, sir, for the year 2024, January to date, there have been more than 2,500 incidents reported, and specifically on, if I'm not mistaken, the Honourable Member mentioned on online harassment. So specifically on online harassment, 640 out of those 2,500 cases are for online harassment on social media and online.
Yes, Honourable Leopold.
Is there any cases reported from Rodrigues on your register?
Again, Mr. Speaker, sir, the question did not pertain to Rodrigue, but again, if I had the information, I would be pleased to share to the Honourable Member. Yes, from Rodrigues, there are 8 cases reported, and those 8 cases are mostly on fake ID, that is identity theft, online harassment, and cyber stalking.
Next question, Honourable Tour.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. B604.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I am informed by the Academy of Design and Innovation that its jewelry department is currently offering 2 full-time award courses of 1-year duration each in the field of jewelry manufacturing and design. These courses are namely the NC3 Level 3 in jewelry manufacturing and design and National Certificate Level 4 in jewelry design manufacturing and stone setting. The awarding body for these 2 courses is the Mauritius Examination Syndicate. The eligibility criteria for admission to the NC3 in jewelry manufacturing and design are as follows. The student should be at least 16 years old. He should have completed Form 3, that is the 9th grade of the 9 years of continuous basic education, or has successfully completed Form 2, 8th grade of the 9 years of continuous basic education, and has 2 years of working experience in the field of jewelry making, or has successfully completed Form 4 pre-vocational education, or possess any other equivalent qualification and experience acceptable to the Institute. Insofar as admission to the second award course, that is the National Certificate Level 4 in Jewelry Design, Manufacturing and Stone Setting is concerned, a student must have the basic eligibility criteria, which I have just highlighted for the NC3 course, and also he must have successfully completed the NC3 in either jewelry manufacturing and design or jewelry making, or alternatively, the student has any other equivalent qualification and experience acceptable to the Academy. The House may wish to note that, in addition to these 2 award courses, the Jewelry Department also, on a yearly basis, offers to the public and as per demand, non-awarded credit-earned short courses in the field of fancy jewelry and basic stone setting. Moreover, the department also, in collaboration with the HRDC, under the National Training and Reskilling Scheme, runs courses on basic jewelry manufacturing and basic stone setting, which are accredited by the MQA. The House may equally wish to note that the Jewelry Department of the Academy also provides online courses in the fields of basic jewelry design and fancy jewelry making and design in collaboration with the Commonwealth of Learning online platform with content digitally converted and uploaded. It is to be noted for the courses being run in collaboration with the HRDC, any person aged between 16 to 60 years old and is unemployed may apply to follow the course. As for the other short courses, they are open to persons who are at least 16 years old with an interest in the subject matter or is from the industry. With regard to Part B of the question, Mr. Speaker, sir, I am informed by the Academy of Design and Innovation that since the in-person courses are fully practical courses and requires hands-on training, in virtue of the course contents and due to space restriction and availability of workbenches in the workshops, up to 12 participants per batch for each course can be admitted at one time. There are 12 workstations in the jewelry workshop at the ADI, and the intake per cohort is limited to up to maximum of 12 students for both award and non-awarded courses. The honourable member may in this context wish to note that the number of students enrolled for NC3 Jewelry Manufacturing and Design course for academic year April 24 to March 25 is 13. As for NC4, the students enrolled are 6 for May 2023 to October 2024. Mr. Speaker, sir, insofar as Part C of the question is concerned, I am informed by the ADI that the post of lecturer in jewelry manufacturing and design was advertised on at least 4 occasions over the past 3 years. However, the ADI has not been able to recruit a lecturer holding a master's degree as required under the scheme of service for the post. In the circumstances and with a view to ensuring the smooth running of the jewelry department, the ADI has recruited 1 training officer and 4 part-time resource persons for delivering training in specific subject matters. Furthermore, the ADI is proposing to recruit 1 additional training officer and 4 additional part-time resource persons in this financial year. As regard to the last part of the question, Mr. Speaker, sir, I am informed that the ADI has taken a series of measures to improve the visibility of and interest in jewelry courses among secondary students in Mauritius. These measures include the following: organization of awareness campaigns, including in-house presentations in secondary school to inform students on the various courses available, partnership with local jewelry businesses to offer internships, apprenticeships, and hands-on training to students, development of online courses in collaboration with organizations like the Commonwealth of Learning, with a view to making jewelry design and manufacturing more accessible and appealing to technology-savvy students. The courses comprise modules in artificial intelligence and 3D printing technologies to highlight modern techniques in jewelry creation. And lastly, running of a variety of short courses approved by the MQA in areas like fancy jewelry and basics stone setting.
Honorable Tour.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Over and above local partnerships and the Commonwealth of Learning, can the Honourable Minister state whether the Academy of Design and Innovation envisage any partnerships with foreign academic institutions as to enhance jewelry education in Mauritius?
Yes, the ADI has signed a memorandum of understanding with the Birmingham City University in the UK to enhance jewelry education in Mauritius. And it has also signed a memorandum of understanding with NIIT in India.
Right. Honorable Dulab, next question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. B606.
Monsieur le Président, avant de répondre à la question de l'honorable Doulab, je souhaite saisir l'opportunité de vous féliciter pour votre prise de fonction en tant que speaker de cette auguste Assemblée, suite à un processus qui s'inscrit dans le plus grand respect de notre Constitution et de nos institutions. Aussi, Monsieur le Président, la citation « Passant, je ne suis pas mort, je fais semblant » était très cher à feu votre grand-père Sagaïton Duval. J'y vois comme un signe du destin qu'aujourd'hui, son petit-fils soit nommé à la prestigieuse fonction de président de notre Assemblée. Je suis convaincu que vous ferez l'honneur à un des plus grands personnages de notre nation, ainsi qu'à notre démocratie parlementaire.
Thank you, Honorable Member.
Mr. Speaker, sir, the priority of this government under the Prime Ministership of Honorable Pravin Kumar Jagannath was to issue fishermen cards with the aim of reducing our dependency on seafood imports for the local market. Mr. Speaker, sir, I wish to put it on record that this government has promised to issue 1,000 fishermen cards. Today, this government is proud to announce that we will reach our target by the end of September this year. It is a fact, when the Labour Party was in power, the issue of fishermen cards was the least of their concern. However, as rightly stated on different occasions by the Honourable Prime Minister, parole donnée, parole sacrée, the MSM government has fulfilled its promise. Mr. Speaker, sir, as the House is aware, in the budget speech of 2 financial years, namely 2021-2022 and 2022-2023, government had announced the issue of 1,000 fishermen cards with priority to be given to active fishermen in the first instance. Accordingly, out of the 1,000 cards that was announced to be issued, 672 fishermen cards have been issued, out of which 177 are from the region of Mayberg, as at 18 July 2024, which includes, of course, 85 fishermen cards for period April 2023 to date. The region-wise list is being tabled. Mr. Speaker, sir, the processing of fishermen cards is an ongoing exercise. If all goes as planned, the remaining 328 applicant fishers will receive their certificates and fishermen cards within the next 2 months. Thus, we shall achieve the target of allocation of 1,000 fisher cards, which is indeed a great matter of pride for me and this government. Mr. Speaker, sir, also, on the 18th of July, means a few days ago, 191 fishermen cards were issued. The House may wish to know that during the awards ceremony, which was raised by my 2 colleagues, Mr. Honorable Hariram and Honorable Ramdani, the fishermen community was highly appreciative of the fact that their contribution to the economy was being recognized, and they expressed their gratitude to the government for the number of schemes that have been put in place for them. This amply testifies that this government has adhered the well-being of the fishermen community.
Honorable Dulab.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sir, can the Minister confirm the number of fishermen who have retired on the ground of age as of now?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, sir, as at date, 334 fishers have retired from fishing activities against a compensation under provision of budgetary measures. Hence, my ministry has an additional 334 fishermen cards, which will be allocated to next of kin of the retired fishers and also to new applicants.
Yes, Honorable Dulab. Next question.
B612.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I join my colleague member, and from all members present in the House, we congratulate you for your election as Speaker.
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, sir, intrauterine insemination is an assisted conception technique and a fertility treatment. It is a less invasive and more affordable option compared to other assisted reproductive technologies, ART, like in vitro fertilization, IVF, for selected patient population. My ministry recognizes the growing demand for fertility treatments, including IUI, due to various factors such as delayed childbearing and infertility issues. Mauritius, like many countries worldwide, has experienced a decline in birth rates. The current birth rate for Mauritius in 2024 is 9.8 births per 1,000 people, a 0.56% decline from 2023. Mr. Speaker, sir, since 6 January 2024, the fertility clinic at SSR Hospital has embarked on intrauterine insemination, also known as IUI procedure. As at date, 38 insemination samples have been processed for couples undergoing fertility treatment. These couples have been selected according to the intrauterine insemination guidelines of my ministry, which have been formulated using international scientific evidence. Mr. Speaker, so I'm informed that out of these 38 couples who underwent IUI treatment, 2 patients conceived. It is the first time that such innovative fertility treatment is available in our public hospital. This is an encouraging step for infertile couples wishing to conceive and who do not have the means to follow costly treatment in private or abroad. Mr. Speaker, so ensuring healthcare personnel is crucial for the success of fertility treatment and IUI procedures. Ministry has initiated specialized training programs for gynecologists and medical laboratory staff. These programs are designed in collaboration with international fertility experts. Thanks to the sponsorship of Merck Foundation, 2 medical lab technologists were selected and sent to Manipal Academy of Higher Education, Mangalore, India, for a certificate course in assisted reproduction from January 2023 to April 2023. Additionally, 2 gynecologists were also selected and sponsored to be trained in the basics of reproductive endocrinology and infertility at Indira Fertility Clinic in Udaipur, India. Mr. Speaker, sir, the implementation of IUI procedures is progressing well. We remain committed to providing accessible, affordable, and effective fertility treatment to support the reproductive health and well-being of our citizens. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Tour.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Can the Honourable Minister inform the House on the current status of the Assisted Human Regulation Bill?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, sir. Now, for the time being, this bill, the ministry is engaged in the drafting phase of the bill, and that will be going to Cabinet. And it also is currently formulating a framework that addresses the ethical, legal, and social considerations related to assisted human reproduction.
Yes, Honorable Tour.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Would the Honourable Minister state whether the intrauterine insemination services would be extended island-wide?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, sir. So these, it will require quite some investment, financial investment. So what the ministry is doing is doing an in-depth cost analysis so that we can ensure that these services can be provided elsewhere.
Next question, Honorable Dulab.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sir, B613.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, sir, I wish to inform the House that Ministry is in the process of establishing a public health emergency operations center in line with WHO recommendations. The setting up of the FEOC is critical in fulfilling the country's obligations under the International Health Regulations, IHR 2005, and is one of the core functions of the Integrated Disease Surveillance and Response IDSR. The FEOC will constitute a hub for effective harmonization of information and resources during emergencies. This command center will be called upon to bring together multi-sectoral and multidisciplinary experts to coordinate preparedness and response efforts to disease outbreaks and other public health emergencies. The WHO has thus extended its support in the form of consultancy services from September to December 2023 to lay the foundation of the setting up of the FEOC. An assessment of the FEOC capacities was conducted and an implementation plan for the setting up of the FEOC was developed. The FEOC is expected to reinforce health resilience against emerging and re-emerging infectious diseases. Provision has accordingly been made in the budget for the operationalization and day-to-day running of the FEOC, which is expected to be operational by end of December 2024.
Yes, Honorable Dulab.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sir, can the Minister inform the House about the budget allocation of the Public Health Emergency Operations Center?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, sir. WHO is providing support for the training of staff and will also provide IT equipment. The allocated budget covers the following key areas: salaries and allowances for the dedicated team of professionals, that those who will be operating the FEOC, day-to-day operational expenses, including utilities, maintenance of equipment and supplies necessary for smooth running of the FEOC, and also a contingency fund to be utilized for immediate response activities in the event of a public health emergency. The budget allocated in this year is 2.6 million rupees. Merci. Thank you.
Time is over.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I move that all the business on today's order paper be exempted from the provisions of paragraph 2 of Standing Order 10.
The question is that all the business on today's order paper be exempted from provisions of paragraph 2 of Standing Order 10. Those in favor say aye, those against say no. Aye. The ayes have it.
Statements by ministers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Let me also, first of all, join my colleagues in congratulating you on your appointment as Speaker of the House. Mr. Speaker, sir, with your permission and for the benefit of the House, I would like to make a statement on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The recent developments unfolding in Gaza, wherein the situation has reached an appalling level of suffering and destruction, are a matter of grave concern. According to recent reports, more than 38,000 Palestinians have been reportedly killed in the Gaza Strip, including innocent children, and around 89,000 Palestinians have been injured since the conflict between Hamas and Israel started on 7th of October last year. According to the World Health Organization, a multitude of attacks have been recorded in the occupied Palestinian territory since 7th of October 2023, and the Palestinian health system continues to be severely overstretched. On Friday, 19th July 2024, Israel launched an air raid against the port city of Hodeidah in Yemen in retaliation to a drone attack by the Houthis on Tel Aviv. We are dismayed by the fact that this conflict is still ongoing, despite the adoption of a resolution by the UN Security Council on 10th of June 2024, urging both parties to implement a ceasefire agreement without further delay. We reiterate our appeal to both sides to exercise restraint so as not to derail the ongoing peace talks. In parallel, we are witnessing a deplorable situation of dim prospect for a two-state solution between Israel and Palestine. The parliament in Israel has passed a resolution on 18th July 2024 that overwhelmingly rejected the establishment of a Palestinian state. Mr. Speaker, sir, on 19th July 2024, the International Court of Justice delivered a landmark advisory opinion wherein it is mentioned that Israel's continued presence in the occupied Palestinian territory is unlawful and should be ended as rapidly as possible. The International Court of Justice also expressed the opinion that, and I quote, all states are under an obligation not to recognize as legal the situation arising from the unlawful presence of the State of Israel in the occupied Palestinian territory and not to render aid or assistance in maintaining the situation created by the continued presence of the State of Israel in the occupied Palestinian territory. End of quote. In its advisory opinion, the court concludes that the State of Israel's continued presence in the occupied Palestinian territory is unlawful. The State of Israel is under an obligation to bring an end to its unlawful presence in the occupied Palestinian territory as rapidly as possible. The State of Israel is under an obligation to cease immediately all new settlement activities and to evacuate all settlers from the occupied Palestinian territory. The State of Israel has the obligation to make reparation for the damage caused to all the natural or legal persons concerned in the occupied Palestinian territory. All the states are under an obligation not to recognize as legal the situation arising from the unlawful presence of the State of Israel in the occupied Palestinian territory and not to render aid or assistance in maintaining the situation created by the continued presence of the State of Israel in the occupied Palestinian territory. International organizations, including the United Nations, are under an obligation not to recognize as legal the situation arising from the unlawful presence of the State of Israel in the occupied Palestinian territory, and the United Nations, and especially the General Assembly, which requested the opinion, and the Security Council should consider the precise modalities and further action required to bring an end as rapidly as possible the unlawful presence of the State of Israel in the occupied Palestinian territory. The House would recall that on 9th July 2024, in an answer to PQB 571, my colleague, the Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs, Regional Integration and International Trade, stated that on 22nd February 2024, Mauritius participated in the oral hearings at the ICJ on the request for an advisory opinion pursuant to the United Nations General Assembly Resolution 77/247 pertaining to the question of Palestine. Mauritius took a very proactive stand on this issue and was among the 57 states which made a written submission to the ICJ. Mauritius has, for decades, lent its unflinching support to the cause of the Palestinian people. We have always called for an end to the Israeli occupation that began in 1967. We have consistently supported the establishment of an independent and viable Palestinian state alongside Israel for a just, lasting, and comprehensive peace in the region. In line with our long-standing and affirmed position, Mauritius has always voted in favor of all UN resolutions on the question of Palestine, and that emphasize the importance and urgency of resolving the Israeli-Palestinian conflict through the establishment of an independent state of Palestine, living side by side with Israel in line with the two-state solution. We therefore welcome and fully support the advisory opinion delivered by the International Court of Justice. Mauritius calls for the full implementation of the ICJ advisory opinion, calls on Israel to adhere to its international obligations and to respect international law, and urges the international community to fulfill its obligations in addressing Israel's illegal practices. I also wish to reassure the House that Mauritius will maintain its commitment to support all initiatives at the level of the General Assembly of the United Nations that would call on Israel to unconditionally withdraw its illegal occupation of the Palestinian territory in line with the advisory opinion recently delivered by the ICJ. We also firmly believe that the two-state solution is the only viable option that can bring along lasting peace to the region. In this regard, Mauritius supports all initiatives to bring this enduring conflict to an end and promote the Israeli-Palestinian peace process, including our support for an immediate ceasefire, the unconditional release of all hostages, and the unimpeded access of humanitarian assistance. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Public bills first reading.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to move that the State Lands Amendment Bill number 12 of 2024 be read a first time.
Seconded.
Public bills second reading.
Mr. Speaker, sir, let me first congratulate you for your appointment as Speaker of the House, and now move that the Finance Bill number 10 of 2024 be read a second time. The Finance Bill number 10 of 2024 provides for the implementation of measures announced in the Budget Speech 2024-2025 and its annex, and for matters connected, consequential, or incidental to it. The bill brings amendments to 94 enactments which cover the three themes of the budget, namely fostering economic dynamism, working towards a sustainable and inclusive Mauritius, and building our future. Mr. Speaker, sir, the main amendments contained in the bill will be explained. I will now speak on the main amendments which relate to fostering economic dynamism. Clause 6 amends the Bank of Mauritius Act to further strengthen the operational independence of the central bank to deliver on its mandate of monetary policy and financial stability. Clause 7 amends the Banking Act to, amongst others, review the terms for the appointment of auditors for branches or subsidiaries of a foreign bank and remove the time frame of at least 24 hours of notice to the public before the day on which an institution proposes to transact business with the public when that day is a bank holiday or a public holiday. Clause 14 amends the Companies Act to inter alia require the board of a company to notify the registrar of companies on the resignation of a director or that of the secretary from its company, and provide for companies holding a global business license or an authorized company to comply with provisions of the Companies Act relating to prejudiced shareholders. Clause 16 amends the Construction Industry Authority Act 2023, to inter alia allow local contractors and consultants specialized in different fields to enter into joint ventures in order to enhance the competitiveness of the industry through increased participation in bidding exercises. Clause 20 amends the Cybersecurity and Cybercrime Act 2021 to enable Computer Emergency Response Team of Mauritius to inter alia participate, provide assistance and conduct cybersecurity initiatives at national, regional and international levels. Clause 23 amends the Economic Development Board Act to introduce a 10-year expert occupation permit to attract foreign talents in wealth management, family office, virtual assets, and virtual tokens, and reduce the threshold for occupation permits for professionals from 30,000 rupees to 22,500 rupees. Clause 25 amends the Employment Relation Act to provide that the period for determination of reinstatement cases be extended from 60 to 90 days to give the Employment Relations Tribunal ample time to process the cases. Clause 31 amends the Finance and Audit Act to, amongst others, provide for every department to table at the National Assembly its annual report on performance and empower the internal control cadre to exercise its internal audit functions. Clause 33 amends the Financial Reporting Act to provide for the registration of public interest entities to the National Committee on Corporate Governance. Clause 34 amends the Financial Services Act to, amongst others, introduce timeframes for the processing of licenses falling under the regulatory purview of the FSC and set the timeframe of 6 months after closure of its financial year for an authorized company to file with the FSC its financial summary, accounts, financial statements, or returns. Clause 35 amends the Fisheries Act to inter alia provide for an application for the grant, issue or renewal of a license or an authorization for an activity under the Fisheries Act to be made through NELS. Clause 36 amends the Forests and Reserves Act to allow the removal of protected plants found on state land or reserves for national projects or in the interest of public safety following authorization from the conservator of forests. Clause 37 amends the Freeport Act to allow a company to operate under both a global business license issued by the Financial Services Commission and a Freeport certificate. Provide for the extension of the maximum period during which goods may be warehoused in a Freeport zone by 3 years and authorize a fulfillment center as a Freeport activity, provided that it does not include any manufacturing activity. Clause 38 amends the Gambling Regulatory Authority Act to provide for quarterly payment facilities for bookmaker license conducting fixed odds betting on local race and totalizator operator license, and make it mandatory for operators to keep all their gaming machines, limited payout machines, jackpot system powered on a 24/7 basis. Clause 40 amends the Immigration Act to, amongst others, introduce a 10-year expert occupation permit to attract foreign talents in wealth management, family office, virtual assets, and virtual tokens. Clause 42 amends the Industrial Court Act to provide for the protection of the permanent secretary of the ministry responsible for the subject of labor from liability so that criminal or civil action cannot be instituted against him for any act done or omitted in good faith. Clause 43 amends the Information and Communication Technologies Act to, amongst others, provide for the appointment process of the chairperson or the vice chairperson of the Information and Communication Technologies Appeal Tribunal, and allow the authorized officer of Information and Communication Technologies Authority to seek assistance from the police when conducting any inspection or any intervention. And Clause 45 amends the Irrigation Authority Act to prohibit the construction of permanent structures within an irrigation area without the approval of the Irrigation Authority, exempt owners of abandoned lands in irrigation zone from payment of irrigation dues, and allow an authorized officer of the Irrigation Authority to have access to any private-owned land on which sources of water used for irrigation purposes are found. Clause 48 amends the Le Monde Héritage Trust Fund Act to review the composition of the board of Le Monde Heritage Trust Fund. Clause 49 amends the Local Government Act to inter alia provide that every council will be under the responsibility of either a Director General or a Chief Executive, allow the Valuation Department to use information obtained from various sources for the purpose of compiling and maintaining the cadastral database and determining the cadastral value of an immovable property, and extend the validity period of building and land use permit from 2 years to 3 years. Clause 50 amends the Mauritius Agricultural Marketing Act to allow for the wholesale of imported products in the national wholesale market. Clause 51 amends the Mauritius Cane Industry Authority Act to inter alia regulate the transport charges paid by small planters for transportation of cane. Clause 52 amends the Mauritius Deposit Insurance Scheme Act to enable banks and non-banks deposit-taking institutions to effect an initial contribution to the Deposit Insurance Fund on such date as may be specified by the Board of the Mauritius Deposit Insurance Corporation Limited. Clause 55 amends the Merchant and Shipping Act to inter alia require the Superintendent of Shipping, where a death has occurred on board any foreign ship, to record the reported cause of death and report the matter to the country of registration of the ship, and allow termination of registration of a ship in Mauritius in cases of non-compliance with prescribed norms and standards. Clause 56 amends the Morcellement Act to, amongst others, provide that no person shall make an application for a morcellement permit unless the proposed morcellement has a green forest. Clause 57 amends the National Agricultural Product Regulatory Office Act to exempt a person from applying for an export license for the export of tea below 2 kilograms. Clause 60 amends the National Payment Systems Act to, amongst others, empower the Bank of Mauritius to grant in principle approval to an applicant to operate a payment system, clearance system, or settlement system, or to act as a payment system provider. Extend the authority of the BOM to authorize a person to operate a clearing system or settlement system, and enable the Bank of Mauritius to approve the extension of the appointment of a firm of auditors for an additional period not exceeding 2 years. Clause 64 amends the Non-Citizen Property Restriction Act to allow a foreign entity to hold an immovable property by virtue of a non-renewable lease agreement for industrial or commercial purposes for a term not exceeding 30 years. Clause 73 amends the Public Procurement Act to, amongst others, provide for the setting up of a procurement management and contract administration unit to inter alia ensure that approved projects are implemented in a timely manner and within approved costs, and provide advice to public bodies on project management and contract management, and allow for the independent review panel to require the Central Procurement Board to furnish all relevant information and attend any meeting. Clause 81 amends the Securities Act to make it mandatory to seek the approval of the Financial Services Commission prior to appointment of an audit firm by a closed-end fund. Clause 88 amends the Sugar Industry Efficiency Act to include a representative of the ministry responsible for the subject of land drainage to be a member of the Land Conversion Committee, and allow the Sugar Investment Trust to also sell land to option holders and the general public. Clause 89 amends the Sugar Insurance Fund Act to limit the period of tenure of office of chairperson and members appointed by the minister responsible for the subject of agro-industry and food security to 1-year term, and that they are eligible for reappointment. Clause 90 amends the Tourism Authority Act to inter alia align the validity period of a tourist accommodation certificate with that of the tourist enterprise license. Clause 94 amends the Virtual Asset and Initial Token Offering Services Act to impose a statutory obligation on a virtual asset service provider to appoint a senior executive at all times, duly approved by the FSC. Clause 95 amends the Workers' Rights Act 2019 to inter alia provide that workers on maternity or paternity leave must not be discriminated against in respect of career development or opportunity of promotion, and that termination of employment cannot be effected in such circumstances. Provide that a worker working from home and performing excessive hours of work has the right to disconnect. Provide for more flexible working arrangements by giving a worker the option of taking time off instead of being paid overtime. Ease labor management at level of enterprises and to better protect the right of workers. Consequential amendments are being made to Private Recruitment Agencies Act 2023, extending the entitlement to an allowance paid during cyclone warning clause 3 and 4 to other circumstances where work is performed during heavy or torrential rainfall or period of safety built-in. Provide for the refund of vacation leave. Increase the maternity leave from 14 to 16 weeks to give more time to the mother to recover and to look after her child, and provide for a mother who gives birth to twins or triplets or multiple births or to a premature baby a special 2-week additional maternity leave, and provide an increase in the length of paternity leave from 1 week to 4 weeks, since the first days of parenthood is fundamental in building family bonds and in the development of the baby. Mr. Speaker, sir, I now come to the second theme, which is about working towards a sustainable and inclusive Mauritius. Clause 12 amends the Civil Status Act to inter alia provide for keeping records of the adoptive parents and certified extract of birth certificate in cases of adoption plénière, adoption simple, and légitimation par adoption, and specify in the recording of the birth entry of a child the national identity card number of each parent as mentioned on their national identity card. Clause 21 amends the Declaration of Assets Act to, amongst others, provide for the Financial Crime Commission to monitor the assets and liabilities of any declarant for the purpose of detecting and investigating corruption and money laundering offenses or unexplained wealth. Clause 24 amends the Electricity Act 2005 to, amongst others, regulate the installation of domestic battery energy storage system in order to avoid safety hazards during maintenance work carried out by the CB, and provide for determination of way-leaves for installing or keeping installed electric lines, equipment, and poles to facilitate the implementation of renewable energy projects. Clause 26 amends the Energy Efficiency Act to allow for the development of a regulatory framework for energy performance contracting. Clause 32 amends the Financial Crime Commission Act 2023 to inter alia align the Act with Recommendation 38 of the Financial Action Task Force methodology, which require confiscation of proceeds of crime and such property of corresponding value. Clause 39 amends the Higher Education Act to implement government policy pertaining to infrastructural projects in the higher education sector. Clause 47 amends the Law Practitioners Act to inter alia make it mandatory for any law practitioner or legal officer to every year participate in a continuous professional development program for at least 12 hours, including 2 hours of ethics. Consequential amendments are being made to, amongst others, of the Institute for Judicial and Legal Studies Act. Clause 8 and 59 amend the Central Electricity Board Act and National Land Transport Authority Act, respectively, to provide for consequential amendments relating to the licensing of electric motor vehicle charging stations. Clause 68 amends the Port Act to inter alia deter vessels from staying idle in the port for a period exceeding 6 months. Clause 70 amends the Private Pension Schemes Act to create an obligation for seeking the approval of the Financial Services Commission prior to a shift or conversion of a private pension scheme. Clause 72 and 74 amend the Probation of Offenders Act and the Reform Institutions Act to provide that every member of the respective committee to be paid such fees as may be determined by the responsible minister. Clause 79 amends the Roads Traffic Act to review the definition of classic or vintage motor vehicle as a car aged 40 years or more from its date of original registration in or outside Mauritius, and provide for the licensing of electric motor vehicle charging stations. Clause 80 amends the Roads Act to ensure that the provisions relating to the display and erection of advertisement and advertising structures are harmonized between legislations. Consequential amendments are being made to the Advertisement Regulation Act, Roads Act, and Road Development Authority Act. Clause 91 amends the University of Mauritius Act to provide for service of process in legal proceedings to be served to the Vice-Chancellor instead of the Registrar, given that the former is the principal academic and administrative officer of the University of Mauritius. Mr. Speaker, sir, I will now elaborate on the third theme of my speech, which is about building our future. Clause 4 amends the Animal Diseases Act to inter alia provide for the implementation of National Livestock Identification System for the registration of livestock establishments for traceability in the veterinary sector and disease surveillance. Clause 5 amends the Ayurvedic and other traditional medicines Act to facilitate the registration of specialists in the fields of Ayurvedic and other traditional medicines. Clause 13 amends the Clinical Trial Act to inter alia provide for a sponsor to make an application for a trial license to the Clinical Research Regulatory Council for the National Electronic Licensing System. Clause 15 amends the Competition Act to allow for the Executive Director to appeal to the Supreme Court against an order or direction, provided that the order or direction is in relation to a matter investigated by him or which he has caused to be investigated. Clause 17 amends the Consumer Protection Act to ensure a stronger legal framework in relation to e-commerce and digital marketplace. Similar provision is being made under the Fair Trading Act at Clause 30 and ensure a stronger legal framework with regards to the display of prices. Clause 18 amends the Custom Acts, amongst others, to defer until 30 June 2026 the penalty provision for failure by an importer to submit a bill of entry for the clearance of goods within 5 working days. Clause 19 amends the Customs Tariff Act to allow a beneficiary of a duty-exempted motor vehicle to benefit from another duty-exempted motor vehicle, provided he reimburses the proportionate duties and taxes remaining due on the current motor vehicle. The new motor vehicle should be cleared within 9 months. Abolish the applicable 15% customs duty on milk beverages obtained from nuts and create new HS codes to identify those products on which excise duty or VAT is being abolished or reduced as mentioned in the annex to the budget speech 2024-2025. Clause 22, 54 and 67 amends the Dental Council Act, Medical Council Act and Pharmacy Council Act, respectively, to review the requirement for a higher school certificate or its equivalent for the registration of dental surgeons, general practitioners, and pharmacists, respectively. Clause 29 amends the Excise Act to, amongst others, creating a new category of wines with a lower alcohol strength and a new category of golden rums to allow local manufacture of these products. Renew the negative excise duty refund scheme for a further period of 1 year up to 30 June 2025. Abolish the excise duty of ₹2 per unit on plastic bottles made from plant-based materials and grant 100% excise duty exemption to inter alia a priest as an artisanal fisher and a parent or legal guardian of a disabled person. Clause 41 amends the Income Tax Act to, amongst others, increase the maximum allowable deduction for donation made by an individual to an approved charitable institution, including a religious body, from 50,000 to 100,000 rupees. Allow taxpayers to deduct from their taxable income the amount of wages paid to a carer up to a maximum of 30,000 rupees in an income year, provided the latter's CSG and SF contributions have been paid. Grant to an individual an additional deduction in respect of the fees paid for a dependent child to attend a fee-paying private primary or secondary school up to a maximum of 60,000 rupees per child in an income year. Increase the exemption threshold on lump sum received as pension, retiring allowance, or severance allowance from 2.5 million rupees to 3 million rupees. Exempt from income tax as from 1st January 2024. Any compensation payable by government or a public sector body for losses directly or indirectly suffered as a result of a natural disaster. Implement the decision of government to provide a monthly financial assistance for payment of national minimum wage and salary compensation 2024. Renew the Prime à l'Emploi scheme, which targets unemployed women and persons with disabilities for financial year 2024-2025, and extend the scheme to part-time employees who work for a minimum of 20 hours in a week. Exempt from income tax any allowance paid by government to an individual under a financial assistance scheme. Introduce the corporate climate responsibility levy, which is equivalent to 2% of a company's chargeable income. Exempt profit derived from the sale of virtual assets and virtual tokens from income tax. Grant to a company a deduction up to a maximum of 100,000 rupees in an income year in respect of donations made to an approved charitable institution, including a religious body. Grant to a company a double deduction in respect of expenditure incurred to support the work of a professional in the arts. Grant to a company a triple deduction capped at 1 million rupees in respect of donations made through electronic means to an NGO involved in combating drug abuse, prevention of gender-based violence, or poverty alleviation. Grant to a company a tax credit of 25% of the expenditure incurred in an income year in respect of a creche or the cost of setting up a child daycare center for the benefits of its employees. Extend the investment tax credit of 15% per annum over 3 years to cover capital expenditure incurred on the cost or acquisition of artificial intelligence and patents. Extend the partial exemption regime of 80% to a company holder of a payment intermediary services license or robotic and artificial intelligence-enabled advisory services license, and allow for financial year 2024-2025 the one-off transfer of 1 billion rupees of CSR fund by the MRA to the Consolidated Fund for financing social schemes and programs, including Overseas Treatment Scheme, Grant for Antenatal Care, and l'allocation égalité des chances. Clause 46 amends the Land Act to inter alia reintroduce the arrears payment scheme for another year. A debtor will benefit from the full waiver of interest and penalties if he settles his debt outstanding as at 30 June 2024 or before 26 June 2025, and deem that an effective change in ownership of a company will occur where there is a change of more than 10% in its shareholding. Clause 53 amends the Mauritius Revenue Authority Act to, amongst others, reintroduce the tax arrears settlement scheme, which provides for full waiver of penalties and interest where tax arrears are paid in full by 26 June 2025, and introduce the contribution arrears payments scheme, which provides for full waiver or waiver of 75% of penalties, interest or surcharge, as the case may be, where arrears and social contribution, NPF and SF contribution or training levy are paid in full by 26 June 2025. Clause 61 amends the National Pension Acts to inter alia provide for payment of child's allowance to beneficiaries of basic pensions irrespective of the number of children, and increase the quantum of child's allowance to 2,500 rupees, provide an additional monthly disability allowance of 3,000 rupees to a disabled child of less than 18 years who benefits from the invalid basic pension, review the operational mechanism of the National Pension Fund and the National Savings Fund, increase by 500 rupees the quantum of basic retirement pension, basic invalidity pension, basic widow's pension, and basic orphan pensions, increase the quantum of guardian allowance payable to person taking responsibility of orphans to 2,000 rupees, and provide for an increase in the inmate allowance to 1,500 rupees to improve the well-being of retirees in charitable institutions. Clause 62 amends the Native Terrestrial Biodiversity and National Parks Act to enlarge the mandate of the Conservation Fund to finance, amongst others, biodiversity and conservation projects and forestry-related activities. Clause 63 amends the Non-Citizens Act to inter alia reduce from 30 working days to 21 working days delay for an application to be deemed to have been granted, and provide for that the Ministry issued a notification that the application is still under consideration where the application has not been determined within the delay of 21 working days. Clause 65 amends the Pagiometric Act to clarify that a person may by inheritance hold more than one campement site lease. Clauses 66 and 87 amend the Pensions Act and the Statutory Bodies Pension Funds Act to refund to the heirs of a public officer appointed before 1st January 2013 and who dies while in service the share of contributions that the officer has made, including any pensionable service in statutory bodies, and effect the payment of the death gratuity payable upon the demise of a pensioner to his surviving spouse, or if there is no surviving spouse, to his legal personal representative. Clause 69 amends the Private Health Institution Act to cater for research. Clause 74 amends the Registration Duty Act to inter alia extend the home ownership and home loan schemes up to 30 June 2025, extend the direct debit payment facility currently given to banks, notaries, and attorneys to motor vehicle dealers, and deem that an effective change in ownership of a company will occur where there is a change of more than 10% in its shareholding. Clause 76 amends the Registration of Associations Act to inter alia facilitate the registration of amendment of rules of a registered association and remove the requirement for the secretary of an association to deposit with the registrar of association an original document of the security bond furnished by an officer. Clause 77 amends the removal of Sand Act to allow for sand extraction for the purpose of beach nourishment. Clause 83 amends the Social Contribution and Social Benefits Act to, amongst others, increase the amount of retirement benefit payable as from 1st January 2024 to a person aged 75 years or above from 1,000 to 2,500 rupees, extend the payment of the CSG income allowance until June 2025, including end-of-year bonus. The amount of allowance payable is being increased as follows: 3,000 rupees for individual deriving income not exceeding 20,000 rupees, 2,500 for individuals deriving income from 20,000 rupees but not exceeding 25,000 rupees, 2,000 rupees for individuals deriving income from 25,000 but not exceeding 30,000 rupees, and 1,500 rupees for individuals deriving income above 30,000 rupees but not exceeding 50,000 rupees. Extend the payment of the CSG child allowance until June 2025, including end-of-year bonus, and increase the monthly allowance from 2,000 rupees to 2,500 rupees. Introduce the revenue minimum guarantee allowance to ensure that all full-time employees have a monthly revenue minimum guarantee of 20,000 rupees. Introduce the monthly school allowance of 2,000 rupees for children up to the age of 10 years. Introduce the monthly equal chance allowance of 2,000 rupees for every household earning less than 20,000 rupees monthly. Introduce the maternity allowance of 2,000 rupees, which will be paid to a mother for 9 months, as from the month in which she has reached the 3rd trimester of her pregnancy. Introduce the one-off pregnancy care allowance of 3,000 to pregnant women upon completion of not less than 6 medical checkups required to be followed during her pregnancy, and provide an additional monthly allowance of 3,000 rupees to a disabled child of less than 18 years who benefits from CSG disability allowance. Clause 92 amends the Value Added Tax Act to inter alia provide that the rate of exchange should be specified in the VAT invoice for supplies expressed in a currency other than Mauritius currency. Exempt the entrance fee to a digital art gallery from VAT, and increase the once in a lifetime VAT exemption on the purchase of a taxi to a maximum of 120,000 rupees. Clause 93 amends the Veterinary Council Act to, amongst others, allow a person holding a degree or diploma or an equivalent qualification in veterinary medicine and surgery to provide such veterinary treatment to an animal as the veterinary surgeon may authorize, and allow for the temporary registration of a non-citizen as veterinary surgeon where he undertakes to work in a company or any other body in the field of veterinary medicine or surgery. Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm proposing amendments at committee stage to the Construction Industry Authority Act, the Customs Tariff Act, the Fair Trading Act, the Income Tax Act, the National Land Transport Authority Act, and the Workers' Rights Act. These amendments are being circulated in the House. I now commend the bill to the House.
I suspend the sitting for 1.5 hours.